But I'm also the founder of a company called Apprentice Field Suite. We developed an AR solution specifically and only for biopharma manufacturing and R&D. So a lot what you guys have here in Boston. We launched about a year ago, and since then we've been working with 5 out of the top 10 largest pharma companies in the world. We've deployed a number of different smart glasses, not just Epson here, but we've been pretty battle tested. We have one of our customers even down the block that we've been working with a lot. And what I like most about the Moverio is that I'm also well aware that you guys just had a HoloLens hackathon, right? Just a few weeks ago that I'm sure you guys really liked. I brought my HoloLens with me as well because when you guys try this on later, I want you to feel the difference in weight between the two devices. I'm still a fan of Epson because it fits a specific niche, and that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit in this presentation. So believe it or not, Epson, the printer company, the people that make projectors, you know, I think we're on a screen here, but you know, you walk into any office building, you're sure to see some projector on the wall, and it's probably Epson. Or if you have one of those terrible printers at home, also Epson. So they had this theory about 5.5 years ago, and they said, we're really good at projectors. Why don't we do that for somebody's face? And what they did was they developed a device called the BT100. So this happened many years ago, well before AR and VR started to get really cool. So they were like the early hipsters, if you want to call it that, for AR. And they developed this first device, and then they followed that up about a year and a half later with the BT200. So the BT200, which is what I have here, is called simple smart glasses. You know, there's different terms for these head-mounted displays lately, but simply Epson likes to call it a pair of smart glasses, and it's a binocular display. I'm sure most of you knew Google Glass, you know, everyone did, and that was a monocular display, so a small little screen, corner of your eye. The difference between that and this device is that it's both eyes, just like HoloLens. However, the BT200 though is 8 times lighter than HoloLens. And that's just the BT200. What's just coming out now, which they're still in production, I haven't even gotten a pair yet, is the BT300. This is Epson's new device, and they say that they're doubling down on the category pretty much, because this is now their 3rd iteration in almost 5 years, so pretty quick turnover time now on the devices. And the BT300 is 20% lighter even than the BT200, but it has what is kind of a first in the industry. It has an OLED display. So with a lot of these devices, and even HoloLens and many others, there's this little feathering. So when you're looking through it, you know, and you have black, there's still this little feathering around the square that you end up seeing. What OLED does, it's completely black. Those pixels are actually turned off. So instead, the only thing that you see are the objects that you choose to put in the display. And now the great thing about this is that one of the big complaints about smart glasses in general has been this whole, narrow field of view. You know, I can only see this small little thing in the middle of my eyes. Now, yes, the display itself for the BT300 is still small-ish, but because of the OLED display, you're able to make this 360-degree canvas because you can place objects where you need them to be, and you don't have to worry about this small little square. You just move your head, and the object comes into the field of view. In addition to the BT300, there is something called the BT2000, and yes, it looks big and bulky. I know, I told Epson that same thing when I got it. But even though it's big and bulky, or looks big and bulky, it's also about 6 times lighter than HoloLens. And again, I hope you guys can come by later and actually try this guy on. But their intention with this device was to be used in the enterprise, spaces like what I'm doing. Because this device can be worn, they say, for many, many hours on end, and we've done demos with our customers that have lasted 5 and 6 hours, and because it is distributed on your head, the weight is much lighter. You know, it's much nicer than something, say like this, that is on your ears. I know this is a slight difference, but when you're wearing these things for hours on end, weight starts to feel a little heavy on your ears. And so if you distribute it a little bit easier, it's just a nicer way and a nicer form factor. And so this is some more information on the BT300. I'm actually going to show a video in a little bit. But here's the important part. So the price. The price of this device for pre-order right now, this is just pre-order, is $799. So again, if we're just going to draw a comparison against HoloLens, and I'm not discounting HoloLens, man, it's a good device. We've deployed it in the wild already. We've built an application for it. But the difference is if you want to deploy many devices, not just one or two in your facility or at a location, if you want to deploy at scale, this offers you a price point where you can do so relatively in range here. And so I already mentioned that it's really much lighter, much cheaper, and it's a lot less fragile at this stage. I mean, I've dropped this device, I can't tell you how many times already, and she's still kicking, so kind of firsthand experience there with that. The camera actually finally got better. On the BT200, frankly, it's horrible. But on the 300 now, it's great. It's a full HD display. It brings it up now to 5 megapixels, so what you'd have on, well, not your current iPhone, but maybe like your 4S that you would have had. So the cool thing, though, is that it's Android-based. So everything that if you've been a mobile developer for all these years, like I was in my past life, this isn't like you have to relearn C# for Unity. You don't have to necessarily be a game developer, even though there is a plugin for Unity. If you're just a straight mobile dev, this is a quick and easy way to get into the smart glasses world without necessarily having to learn a new language, or, what's also important, buy a new computer. So I've had a Mac whole career. I haven't had to buy a new computer because I can do dev on a Mac. I know it's a small thing, but for me, when you're a developer, you don't necessarily want to spend a couple $100 on a new Windows machine to do a certain type of dev work. So let me pull up this video so you can see some of the capabilities of the new device that I don't have, but and hopefully the sound should come through as well. I'm going to the old-fashioned way. So what they're trying to really do is demonstrate that this is a light device that you can use in a number of different environments. So their goal here is to use similar technology. The way that you use hand gestures is different than what you would do with, say, HoloLens because it doesn't have the spatial mapping capability. But the bottom line is that you can still have those same features with a smaller, lighter, cheaper handset. So this was the drone demo that Jeff was talking about, where they're doing this a lot with drones because you're able to have a really lightweight device out in a field or wherever you're using your drone, so that you can connect the feed in real time, so you can actually see what's going on your drone while you're flying it around, but at the same time not be occluded from the world and actually still see what's going on around you. And now this is what I was talking about with volume movement. So if you have a museum, for example, and you want to deploy 50 devices, it's a heck of a lot cheaper to deploy 50 of these things than some of the more higher end devices in the marketplace. But this is where the BT300 is going, and I'm excited for it because it offers an opportunity that that you can use and get started right away. So the BT2000 now, where'd the clicker go? Yep. So this device, like I said earlier, it's made for the enterprise. It's water and dust resistant. It's made to be thrown around, and this is a device that we use here and there for certain use cases, but by far it does actually have a benefit if you're doing certain things because it has these hot swappable batteries, and this is a let me turn off the volume here. This is an important point because over the last year and a half when we've been working with our customers, the biggest complaint by far has been battery life. I'm trying to work, I'm doing a job, and I don't want the battery to stop me from doing my job. I sit behind a computer screen all day, behind my laptop, but in my industry, these people are working in manufacturing facilities. They're creating everything from cancer drugs to over-the-counter pills, and they're working with their two hands. And they don't have the luxury of having their laptop plugged in all day long. But instead, by having these hot swappable batteries where as you're working, you can pop one out and pop in another replacement, you can keep working. And as long as there's no interruption while you're working, it now brings AR from this kind of thing where you only use it for like 20 minutes to a half an hour into something that's multi-hour and it's used throughout the day. And so I think that's an important point that at least we've seen, because if you can keep that battery alive, it's kind of a really important feature. And so this is some of the use cases that I was talking about. So again, if you're thinking about a device like this, my advice is always, if you're looking for a use case, go after something where your intention is to deploy a lot of glasses. Because the price point's cheaper. Epson works really well if you're buying a lot of devices in bulk. Their BT200 right now is at $450, so it's very, very cheap, if you want to just break into this space. So again, if you're looking to do something, say for example in the museum space, or think sporting arenas, where everyone in the luxury booths end up having these glasses, they look down at the football field, and then there's data being displayed on the field in real time. You're not going to want a very expensive device in that scenario because people are drinking, they're putting on this device, they're not super users. It's going to get roughed up. And so using this device in those types of scenarios, it make complete sense. Also, I mentioned obviously for drones, because again, it's a lightweight device that you can use while you're flying your drone around, having a video feed come in. And then you can do things in the enterprise like what I'm doing, where you can use this with people who actually need to use two hands and have information with them in order to make informed decisions. So that pretty much wraps it up. Kept it nice and short. If you guys had, to get started, one, obviously contact me. I can get you a nice little rate on the BT200. The BT300 is now shipping hopefully in the next couple weeks for the pre-orders. I was supposed to have it before this meetup, but hopefully it should be in a few weeks. That's another big thing that Epson has going for them, is that they have a supply chain. I think this is pretty interesting because I've already come into situations where I've seen something awesome at CES. I loved it, I saw it there, we talked about it, we're like, all right, we're going to develop for this thing. And then they say they're not going to ship it now until 2017. And I stare at them and I'm like, how can I sell a product if you're not shipping this until 2017? This is crazy. Epson, on the other hand, already has a manufacturing production line. They can move these things in bulk very quickly. And so that's one thing that I also like about them, because when you are trying to deploy product, you want somebody that can actually deliver it. And so if you want to also get started, again, like I mentioned, it runs Android. So if you have any questions, please feel free to stop by. We'll try them on. You can actually compare the weight against the different devices. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, plenty of time for questions. Anybody? Right here.
I was just wondering, what frame rate do these run at?
The BT200 is not great. It's like 15, a little rough. But the 300 though is an HD display, full 60 frames per second. It's really nice and crisp. I wish I had that to actually show you too, because at CES this year it looked fantastic. But the BT200, you'll see. It's a little bit
And the second part, I didn't understand what you were saying about field of view with the 300. You were saying It was better than the 200?
Yeah, so better in the sense that you don't notice this feathering effect. Because when you put these devices on, and especially the 200, you see that there's clearly a projector in front of you, a projector of some sort.
And you're just saying you don't see that box in the air.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you kind of get
technically you don't actually have more field of view, but
Correct.
you're not constantly aware of how crappy your field of view necessarily is.
Exactly right. Yes. You're tricked, yeah.
Do you know if Epson is looking at depth sensors at all?
Yes, so this actually, the BT2000 has a depth sensor. Their SDK is, if somebody's recording this, it's not great. But there is a depth sensor on the device. If you are so inclined to go pretty deep into the raw data that's coming off of it, you can do so. We messed around with it, but it was just too low level to really get any value out of it. They are exploring a snap-on for the 300, I believe, especially in the advent of what's happened with HoloLens. So that's something that they want to work in with there. But what we're doing to get around some of the limitations for depth sensing is that there are developer kits that are third-party that do things like hand gesture recognition. So, I know that this is an open hand, I know this is a fist, it can give you XYZ coordinates too. Similar to how HoloLens develops it, uses it. It won't give you that Z aspect, but at least you'll get kind of XY. So there's some ways around the non-depth sensing aspect of it.
Can you tell us more about
Yeah, sure. So, frankly, they were more excited than I thought they'd be. When we first launched it over a year ago, we went to the largest pharma show in the world, just kind of tested it out. Wanted to see if there was any market demand for this. Turns out we ended up winning Best New Product against companies like GE, Thermo Life Sciences, Thermo Scientific, excuse me, Pole Life Sciences, etc. And that was kind of a big game changer for us because there was a need in the industry for when people work with two hands. And I can't stress this very, very simple concept enough, where when people work with two hands and they don't necessarily always have information in front of them, they still need ways to do things like troubleshooting, have procedures with them, because in pharma, which is really interesting, is that every single time you do a procedure, you can do this for the 500th time, you have to have step 1, 2, 3, and 4 listed next to you every single time. And for somebody doing this for the 200th time, they skip from step 1 to 4 very often. They're like, oh, I remember how to do this. I'm not going to look at the instructions. And that's when problems happen. That's when batches that cost $2 to $4 million get lost because of simple human error. So instead now, all the information is brought directly into the glasses. They can't move on to step 2 without confirming or recording information. And then for management, there's a full audit trail because every single step that they do is logged and recorded in a report so that management can say, hey, what's going on here when problems come up? And because when problems come up, they have to record this for FDA regulations. So a lot of different things are at play. We're exploring a lot of different use cases. We have 3 different applications. One specifically focused on troubleshooting, one that's just procedure management, and one that's just for data and safety. Data collection and safety, excuse me. Yeah.
What is your field of view for the 300?
The field of view, so it's probably about an inch wider than HoloLens, just to give you a kind of a perspective. It's identical to the BT200. They say it's like 20% wider, but you really can't tell. It's still, though, a little bit further out than what HoloLens is and a little bit deeper. And you'll see with the 200, it actually covers a pretty wide range of views. You still won't get peripheral. That's not going to happen with this device. But hopefully with the 300, you can kind of trick people, like we were mentioning earlier, into feeling like the field of view isn't as narrow.
About how many of these are being used in various industries?
So here's a little secret. No one is doing this at scale yet. No one has deployed 2,000 devices at a company. That's just not what's going on right now. So what we're doing, and where at stage we are, which is in line with pretty much everyone else in the industry, are in situations where you're deploying anywhere from 20 to 50 devices per company. So overall, in the wild, though, there have been several thousand overall, but you're not talking about numbers of hundreds of thousands or millions yet by any stretch of the imagination. Hopefully, they'll be coming soon. It'll be good for me. Yeah.
Could this work with Tom Brady?
Yeah, his plays will come up as he's throwing. Yeah. No. Yeah, but that's actually a perfect example because sporting is a good example because playing sports is a good example because you don't want something that's heavy, you don't want something that's bulky, and you're running. So if you have a device like this, it's lightweight, that brings information into your field of view, especially for like practicing. I don't think the NFL will ever allow this in a game where Brady has information being fed from it at all times. Yeah, yeah, that would be awesome. I'm a New York fan, I apologize, but otherwise though, sports is a potential avenue for this, definitely.
What about if you have glasses?
Fits over it. Yeah, so this was a big deal for me because I never wear contacts. I only do this every once in a while. But this unit is specifically designed to fit over glasses, both of them, and even the BT300 too. Because that's a big pain that comes up, especially in our industry, because people have prescription safety glasses, and this is an issue because they're like, well, I need safety glasses. And so this can go over that, and so you still have that safety glass component or prescription component as well.
What about the sound?
So for the BT, actually for both of these, it's wired, so it'd have to be, mic'd. It wouldn't be like HoloLens where it has speakers in both ears. Mm-hmm.
Can you speak to the differences in the motion tracking capabilities of each of the displays?
Yep. So in terms of, head tracking or in terms.
Inertia, right?
Yes, yes. So the IMU in this device was, and this is actually why the price point for this one is more expensive. It's actually $2,000 versus the BT200 and 300, which is that 450 to 700 range. The IMU on this was specifically designed to be highly, highly accurate because some of the applications they had in mind was kind of people tracking. So walking around a facility and getting a really, really accurate gait measurement because it was able to identify the very, very slight deviations in what's going on. So I haven't gotten into too much depth with that yet, so I can only speak to the marketing part of it, but it's supposed to have a very, very good IMU, from what I understand.
Okay, and the other ones would be like a standard cell phone?
Yeah, pretty standard. Yeah, the BT200. Yeah. The 300, I haven't put it through its paces yet. But the 2000, though, that's the one that they specifically talk about that feature.
Anybody else?
All right. Well, come on by. We'll try them on. Thank you.
Thank you very much.